Hey guys, how's it going? Azrach Collections here, and I'm back after a long time doing action figure reviews. I haven't been buying a lot of stuff for a while, so I haven't been doing too many action figure reviews, but I got the Zack Snyder's Justice League 3-pack tin here, so I thought today is the best day to start again. So we're doing a review of this guy, so let's get the foil out of the way, and we'll look at the box, and we'll get into the review. So huge box, absolutely humongous. We've got the Justice League logo up front here. We've got the DC logo on top here. And then the 112 logo here. The Zack Snyder Justice League here. And the Justice League logo in the middle is grayscale, which is really nice. On the bottom here, we've got Zack Snyder's Justice League. Awesome. Nothing much on this side, just the logo of the Justice League movie here. Up top here, again, Zack Snyder's Justice League. On this side here, again, the logo of the Justice League movie. And at the back here, a huge, nice picture of Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, and Ezra Miller's characters. So we've got Batman, Superman, and Flash, which is awesome. DC logo up top on the left, Zack Snyder's Justice League up top on the right, Mezco logo down here, and just a little bit of warning here, and barcode. Awesome. The box looks really nice. It's all grayscale, fitting to the grayscale version that was released. And yeah, it just looks really nice overall. Getting into the actual box, the box is, all right, it looks like that. It's got a little bit of foil paper here. We'll put that to the side. We have some instructions. It says Zack Snyder, it says Justice League Deluxe Box Set. The Flash, big page. You got the Batman here, or the grappling hook, and you've got some battery components here for the mother box, which looks pretty cool. Nothing on the back. Mezco 112 post plate display, just the Mezco thing. I don't know if it's a certificate of authentication, authenticity, or looks like just a thing that Mezco gives out. Pretty cool. Here we've got the three characters in here. The thing that I'm looking forward to most is the Flash. I know that's weird, but the reason I want Flash is because I've got all the rest of the characters. I don't have Flash or Cyborg from Mezco, so yeah, I guess Mezco is never gonna make a Cyborg, but with what we have here, already have Batman, already have Superman. The black suit version, I did a few versions of my own. And this Batman, I tried to do a Batman, but I never completed it. I'll take you through like a comparison later on. But I didn't have the Flash, so that kind of adds to the set, which is awesome. And I'm really excited to see what that looks like. I've seen a bunch of other reviews, I'm not gonna lie. And it does look a little bit disappointing, but I wanna form my own opinions. So let's take our time, go through everything, and form our opinions. So, all right, let's take this off. All right, the characters are just sitting there, which is really nice. The suit on, let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. All right, so the suit on Batman, it does look a little bit better in person. It looks more texturized, so it's kind of like the Ascending Knight kind of feel. Not the Ascending Knight, the Supreme Knight, the middle one. What was the middle one? Ascending Knight, Sovereign Knight. Sovereign Knight, it kind of feels like that, which is pretty cool. The Superman feels alright. It doesn't feel similar to the first version of Superman. And Flash is a weird hybrid. But we'll get into that. I think that's everything on the top shelf here. Let's go into the bottom. We'll look at this a little bit later because that's the main event. At the bottom rack here, we get the stands. I think that should have all three stands. We get the three clamps here as well. We've got Batman's accessories. We've got the mother box that lights up. We've got the batteries, and we've got some flash effects. So yeah, overall, pretty nice. I mean, the second layer of the box is a little bit lackluster because most of it is taken up by the stands. And some effects, which is all right. And also the mother box. I think the mother box is really cool. I've got mother boxes from Mafex and Mezco to do like the three human, Atlantean, and Amazonian mother boxes. So just having that activated mother box should be very nice. I mean, having three of those would be really, really nice. But well, you get what you get. All right, so now over to the main event. I'll bring these out one by one so that we can look at them in detail. But yeah, this tray is just packing with a lot of goodness. And I think just having them in person looks a little bit different than looking at photos or videos online. So I do like them a little bit better now, but then again, I have just looked at them and haven't touched or felt them or articulated them. So that might take a turn, but let's get into the nitty gritty. All right, so after a quick setup change, I'm just using a camera that's or a stand that's more up close. It just makes it better for us to look at the figure with more details. So let's just look at Superman first. So before we get into the actual figure, let's get into the accessories that this figure comes with. So the first thing that knocked over is the Superman head sculpt with the laser beam shooting out of his eyes. The expression here is really nice. He does look like Henry Cavill quite a bit. And yeah, it's mimicking the Steppenwolf kind of eye zap really nicely. So I really do enjoy that. There's a good bit of details there. And for people that know me, they know that I'm colorblind, but even for me, this looks a little too orangey. So the skin tone is a little bit weird, but yeah, other than that, the head sculpt does look really nice. It looks like the Superman from the movie or the actual scene, which is a very decent head sculpt. Looks a lot like Henry Cavill as well. So that's that head with the laser eyes coming out. The other head is the slightly mouth open head. Let's look at the difference between these two heads. Yeah, so this one has a slightly mouth open and also a little bit more of a furrowed brow, which looks alright. I mean, doesn't look like Henry Cavill too much, but it is a better head sculpt than the ones they made before. The ones they made before was way too soft. And again, with Henry Cavill, like the head that I'm using with my previous BVS version of Superman is the maniple head. So that head is a lot better, looks a lot more like Henry Cavill. So I think compared to that, this is not doing that well. But then again, it's an improvement from their last version of Henry Cavill, and it's a nice, good looking head sculpt. In terms of hands, we get two flight hands, which are really nice. A little bit of detail on the hands as well. But hands are just hands. I mean, they're just gonna be normal hands, so nothing too special going on here. I think they've probably done other versions of the same hand, so it might be just a recast. We've also got these reaching or grabbing kind of hands, which are really nice. They got like a little bit more expression and emphasis put into his posture, which is really nice. And also the material used is very soft. I think with Mafex they use harder material. Mezco previously have used softer material, but not as soft, I think, or maybe because it's summer here, that's what's causing it. But it is very soft, and I can easily bend it without putting too much pressure. That probably means that it won't break easily, so which is nice. And also it'll be easier for us to just swap the popping of the pegs is more, I guess, easier. So over to Superman now, and this is, I think, the same body that they've used before, so it's a great looking body. It just lends to being Superman really nicely. The broad shoulders, the puffed out chest. The logo on the action figure looks really nice as well. The head sculpt on this is more resembling Henry Cavill. I think the previous version wasn't as good, so this is really nice. With the abs section, you're not getting to see a lot of the abs underneath, which I would have appreciated, because Henry Cavill wore like an undersuit which showed off the abs, and then there was a silver kind of shimmering thing going on. Hot Toys does it really well. I don't think Mezco's done the same, but overall it's a good looking suit with a lot of details. I think it's the same suit that they used before, but just with black kind of colors. With the feet and the boots, they look identical to the one they've used before, even down to the treads at the bottom here. So I would say that they've not changed it too much, but we will do a comparison later on. The only thing that has changed is the cape, and it is wired, but the wire is kind of like not that good. So it's not a strong kind of wire, but it's still wired, so that's nice. But yeah, other than that, I think Mezco's sticking with their aesthetics of having slightly bigger heads, which is alright, I guess. I mean, if it was a slight bit smaller, maybe 2-3% smaller, it would have looked a lot better. Alright, so next up, we'll kick things off with the accessories for the Batman, and he does come with a slightly teeth showing kind of Justice League Batman head. So the head sculpt, in terms of the mouthpiece here, looks very similar to the ones they've done before. but the head kind of does look a little bit different, mimicking the Justice League cowl a little bit more. So I think in terms of that, they haven't done a bad job. They've kind of nailed it in a way. There's just a slight weird color tone going on to Batman's face as well. But it's overall not too bad. With this head as well, yeah, it's the mouth looks a little bit low in terms of the positioning. The nose looks a little bit high. But other than that, it's a good looking sculpt. You can't immediately tell that it's Ben Affleck under the cowl. But yeah, they've matched the Justice League head sculpt or the cowl sculpt pretty well. In terms of other accessories, we do get the grapnel gun, which looks pretty similar to ones that we received before. So there's a small peg here that pegs into Batman's belt at the back. So that's consistent to what we had before as well. Now, in terms of hands, these are definite reuses. You get the two hands that can hold on to something. It looks like there's a little bit of space in the middle here, which would have been for possibly the Bat branding thing that Batman uses in BVS. But yeah, overall, they're good hands. They've just been used or reused from a previous Batman, which is all right. We also have a gun holding hand, which can hold on to his grappling gun. So decent sculpt, again, just a reuse. We have this hand here that's gesturing. I don't know if it's supposed to be holding anything. It could possibly be holding a rifle or anything other that's similar from underneath like that, so that you've got the gun hand like that, and then you're supporting the gun with this. So that's possibly one of the uses. We also have another gesturing hand for the right hand. So this could be used for when he's thrown the batarang out and then he's basically just posing, and the batarang's just gone out of his hand and traveling along. Maybe something like that. Definitely a reuse. We also get these two batarang holding hands, one for the right, one for the left. This is definite reuse, but pretty cool hands. Alright, by default, this is what Batman looks like straight out of the box, and he does look a little bit frumpy because his belt is riding up way too high, and the contrast on the fabrics underneath and the overlay here is just too high. So this kind of really stands out, and the dark lines just look really dark. I really feel like the overlay should have been a little bit darker, which would have made it a lot better. So in terms of making it look better, I should be able to just scoot that down. It might be catching on to some material here, to be honest. I want to be careful. All right, so the belt just came off, which is good. Best outcome I could have had. I didn't want to rip any of the fabric, but if the belt was sitting a little bit lower, look at how that improves Batman already. So let's try to pin that back in and continue with the review. All right, so I think it's sticking now. It's not. Let me just do it off camera. All right, that took a little bit of fiddling, but it went back in, so we're all good. In terms of Batman, yeah, again, the fabrics on the clothes do need to be a little bit darker to make it look more accurate to the movie. The bat symbol does look slightly smaller as well, and again, the head with Mezco, they always do it slightly bigger, so he does look a little bit big-headed. But other than that, reuse on the boots. They've already used these boots for BVS and also I think the Nightmare Batman as well. The gloves are possibly unique to this figure, or maybe they've used it for the tactical suit Batman, not sure. But the gloves do look slightly more unique, or at least on the bit here. The actual glove bit and the fists are reused from previous Batman figures. The texture on the Batman figure is absolutely amazing, actually. So they've copied the movie very, very well in terms of where everything's overlaid and placed, which is really nice. The only issue with that is it's a lighter color. There is wiring on the cape, but then again, like with Superman, it's a little bit frumpy and it doesn't really stick up. But overall, it's a okay looking figure. For the price, maybe not worth it. And it feels like Batman's body is a little bit smaller than before as well. Maybe not true, but we'll compare in a little bit. But the Bruce Wayne head with the bulbous neck just looks a little bit weird as well. Yeah, overall, I mean, they try to get it really right, and I think in some cases or in some instances they have got it right, but then it just doesn't look 100% there. Might be the color, might just be me looking at it in a different way, but it just doesn't look 100% there. All right, so here we have Batman popped on with the Batman head. So that does make the figure look a little bit bigger. Again, the head is a little bit too big. But in terms of this head sculpt for Ben Affleck, I don't think this is a reuse from the Nightmare Batman, but it does kind of resemble Ben Affleck a little bit, but not too much. So there's that kind of, I guess, in between where it resembles Ben Affleck a little bit in certain angles, but it's not 100% Ben Affleck. Overall, good attempt. It's not that bad, and the hair is done really well. But yeah, it's just a little bit too big and doesn't resemble Ben Affleck 100%. In terms of having him with the Batman head, the head looks like it sits up a little bit too high, which is, I guess, MFX standard. The head's just a little bit too bulbous, but that's all right. And yeah, there's something wrong with the silhouette maybe, but it doesn't look like the Justice League Batman for some reason. So we'll do a few comparisons later on to see if the body has changed or not, but it could have been a lot better. The promo images that they showed us, it had right colors, so I'm a bit disappointed that they changed it later on. There's a spec here that's bugging me a little bit. I'm a bit disappointed that they changed it later on, but the initial promo pictures looked a lot better than this. And if I can get a replacement head to be for it to be a slightly smaller, I think this would look like a lot better of a figure. And if I can get the grays toned down to be a little bit more darker, that would also help this figure a lot. All right, we're looking at Barry Allen next, and his head sculpt is done really well. There's a bit of a gap here, but that's for the articulation, and the head looks really well done. I do not mind it at all. The skin tone is again a little bit weird, and this is the alternate expression, so there's a little bit of teeth showing, or the mouth is slightly more open and the eyes are a little bit wider, but overall does look like Ezra Miller and does look like Flash from the movie. There's a lot of good small minute details going on all over the helmet, which is incredible work. For some reason, Flash also comes with the Parademon Blaster. Not sure why Flash comes with it, or it's maybe just the way the box is made. It's placed right next to the Flash, so I've included this as part of the review for Flash, which I don't know if it's weird, but it's a pretty good looking gun with a lot of amazing details. So somebody spent a lot of time sculpting this, and I'm really thankful. I think we've seen one of these before in possibly the tactical armor Batman box with lighter silver maybe, but having an additional one is always good. In terms of hands, Flash comes with a pointing hand. Does he point at anything in the movie? Not that I can remember, but he comes with a pointing hand. I think Aquaman points to him, but I'm not sure if he does point to anyone the other way around. But again, it's a really soft material, so I can easily bend it, and it's sculpted well. Lots of details, good looking hand. We also have two chop kind of running hands as well. Whoops, dropped one. So we've got these hands that can contribute to basically running poses, and lots of good details here as well. Yeah, pretty decent hands. I actually enjoy these. This would be really good for posing. We also have two other hands that are for grabbing onto things or basically reaching out to things. So these are more relaxed, so they could be used for running hands as well. But yeah, also for other gestures, I imagine. So these are not that bad. Still good. Just the skin tones are really weird on this whole set, man. I don't know what it is. So now for my most anticipated, but also the most weird figure in Mezco's lineup. It is the Flash. The reason I call it weird is because we've got visible joints on a figure that could have potentially been very seamless. This could have easily been fabric, just going all the way around. But they've chosen to do armor pieces with visible joints, which is weird in itself, but I guess it's not that bad. The chest armor obviously hinders his movement quite a bit. He can't do anything here. Also, it looks like the body underneath the armor is placed a little bit weird, where it's going to this side here. So it does look a little bit more jutting out here. and it looks more flush here, so that is a little bit weird. It might be just be my figure. With the shoulder pads, they're all right. With the details on the figure, it's actually a lot of good details. It resembles the movie very well. Again, with the visible joints, it's just really weird how they've done it. But not that I'm complaining. I don't mind too much. It just means that fabric won't get caught and destroyed. I did enjoy SH Figure Arts version of Flash quite a bit. So this with joints is not too much of a bad thing for me. I am kind of getting over the whole Mezco's suited bodies anyway. That's why I've started making. So the figures that I'm making, they're more visible joints. I used to make a whole bunch of customs where I was doing fabric clothes, but yeah, I kind of moved on from that. I don't know. It's just Mezco was kind of getting, I guess, repetitive or a little bit old. So I kind of moved on, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing now. And I'm hoping to bring out more action figures for you to download and print. So check out my Patreon, shameless plug. But moving on. The other thing about this figure is it looks like the hips are kind of wide and then everything else is kind of narrow. So the feet are a bit tapered and they look a little bit weird. And it looks like he's got like a gaping kind of thigh gap there, which is a little bit weird. Yeah, this again, this piece, I might need to just break it apart and then put it back on the figure because the body underneath seems to have moved a little bit. Might need to apply a little bit of heat to it, but it's just moving to that side. It's kind of bugging me a little bit. In terms of texture and details, there's a good bunch of texture and details. It resembles the movie very much. The silver kind of bits going all the way around. That's what Flash used to hold the suit together in the movie, which is really nice. So yeah, ultimately it's really nice. Not that bad. There's a whole bunch of loose pieces. So these are all like just overlays that are held with kind of small rubber, no, not rubber, elastic here. And it kind of hinders the articulation, but it does move up a little bit. So it's giving you more articulation than other if it was stationary, which is good. There is a bicep swivel, it looks like, but the fabric is definitely catching on, so I wouldn't want to move it too much. There is a little bit of a bicep swivel, definitely. There is thigh swivels because this piece here, I think it ends at the thighs here, and the peg that's going in is going into a plastic piece here, and this is also a fully plastic piece, and the knee joint is a fully plastic piece as well. So I think there's a joint here that the fabric is ending on, which is a really weird way of doing things, but that's what they've done. Same for the biceps here. So everything above the biceps at the shoulder here, the fabric would end here, and there's a fabric just going all the way across the body, I think, to just these bits, and then the hands and legs are completely plastic. Weird how they've done this, but yeah, it allows for good articulation without having to worry about the fabric getting caught. So ultimately, I don't mind too much. Yeah, the fabric doesn't look like it's about to tear, so that's really nice. Ultimately, I don't mind too much. You can get Flash in running poses and whatnot, which is good. So here we have all three figures lined up and standing up in the light box. I think that they do look all right. In terms of height comparison, Superman is slightly smaller than Batman and Flash is a lot smaller than both. So I think they've captured that well. Height-wise, they look absolutely perfect, I think. But we will compare them with their previous versions of Batman, Superman, and also Wonder Woman and Aquaman so that we can get a good scale for all of them. But yeah, I think they nailed it with the height. So here we have the whole league assembled, and I think in terms of height, they look pretty darn alright. Aquaman should be a little bit taller, but he is similar to Batman in height. But we've got the Mezco Aquaman on the left there, next to the black-suited Zack Snyder's Justice League Superman, and then the Batman and Flash from the 3-pack. On the right there, we've got Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman from the Wonder Woman solo movie, and on the extreme right, we've got the Mafex Cyborg from the initial Justice League, not the Zack Snyder version, which was an upgrade, which I did not get, but that's the first version. So yeah, all in all, the team looks alright. I think in terms of height, it does look alright, but yeah, Batman just stands out to be a little bit goofy looking, and Flash has this weird torso thing going where the upper torso looks really big, and then everything else kind of looks like limp, so it's a little bit weird. But other than that, I think a great looking set, a whole bunch of Mezcos, so that completes the whole lineup. Having Flash there, Adds to that, we are still missing Cyborg, so having that would actually complete the whole lineup, which I was incorrect about before. But having a Cyborg would have been awesome, but I don't think we're gonna get it. We are definitely getting a Cyborg from Hot Toys, which is good, but I don't think we're getting a Cyborg from Mezco, but it is what it is. So now for that Superman comparison, here we have on the extreme left my custom version of Superman. It's a KO Superman that uses the Mix Max body underneath, the body fu body, and also the Maniple version 1 head. So that head is a lot better than that head, I believe, but that head is still better than the version 1 of Mezco's head for this figure. This is also a Maniple head, but that's version 2.0 for Justice League. But yeah, ultimately, this figure does do a lot better in terms of just capturing the movie aesthetics more. The S logo does look a little bit sharper than what I have because I took it from a KO. I think that still stands out like probably to be the very best Superman in that scale. I can see now that the patterns on the fabric here and the patterns on the fabric here are completely different. So that one does look a little bit more appealing as well. And in terms of the boots, they look actually very similar. Yeah, so I would still say that this is my favorite version of Superman, but this is not that bad. In terms of another height comparison we have here, this is the Vitoy Zero Body Superman that was, I forget who made the Superman, but it's a third party kind of company that made the Superman using the Vitoy's body. And the head is not Henry Cavill, but it's more, I guess, a comic book kind of Superman. So in terms of the fabric and the actual patterns used on this Superman, I think the body proportions on this one just is a little bit better. Again, just the way the socks end and the boots start here does look a little bit weird. So ultimately, I think this Superman is probably the best black suit version of Superman with fabric cloths. Mezco did a okay job, but I think Mafex's Superman is slightly better. I do have him, but he is heavily posed, so I didn't want to disturb that. I'll probably put pictures at the end or something, but not a bad Superman here. The head sculpt is a little bit weird. If the head was slightly smaller, see, it just makes the proportions look a little bit better. So that proportion here is a lot better than this with the huge head. So I'll probably do something similar, maybe give it a maniple head later on. But I think ultimately this is a good Superman. The bodies used looks very similar underneath, but the color tones in the hands as well, just really weird. The first version of Superman was really pale. It had like almost dead person like skin, but this one is all right, I guess. It's just too yellow and orange or whatever it is. Yeah, ultimately, out of the four Supermen, I think the BVS Superman is probably the best. Obviously with the maniple head sculpt, but that's not that bad. All right, so now we have a lineup of Batman, and this is absolutely amazing. I love this lineup. Batman is my favorite character, so having this many Batman represented from all the different versions from the movie is absolutely amazing. On the extreme left here, we've got the Mafex Batman, which is version 1. Version 2 is coming out soon, and I'm really excited for it. The body looks a little bit beefier, so it should add to that Batman-ness from that movie. I think the legs and thighs are bulked up a slightly more as well. With articulation improvements, that should be the definitive version of Justice League Batman, but this color palette is much more suited to the movie, whereas this does look a little bit light. If you compare these two, this I think is much more accurate. The logo is going right across the chest as well. This one looks a little bit small, and also I realize now that the chest logo should be more like this, where it's got like all the divots going on. This one does not have that, or is not that I guess evident, so there is a slight miss there. With this Batman here, the tactical suit Batman from Justice League as well, absolutely amazing figure. I think with the overlay pieces, they've done a really good job in making this figure. It just looks really accurate to the movie. The head sculpt is slightly amiss, but other than that, everything looks pretty amazing. This Batman here does not compare, I guess, to this one as much. The gauntlets look like it's from this one, and the gloves are just similar across all Batman. This one at the end here is a custom. The one here is the BVS Batman. my absolute favorite Batman action figure. I don't think you can do any better than that. Still the gold standard from Mezco, the best Batman that you could buy in this scale. And the thing that really gets me about this is the absolutely amazing proportions, the thighs, the abs, the chest, everything, the fabric, everything is done absolutely well. Only thing I changed on this Batman is the cape. This is a cape from Jackson Zoo, I think. That's how you pronounce his name. But amazing cape. Other than that, everything stock standard, and the best, absolute best version of Batman. In terms of belt as well, these are from the same company, and this belt looks a little bit more weird to me for some reason. These belts look infinitely better, so I don't know what's going on here, but they just look like they've been slopped on with paint, and it's just like a streak of gold paint without having any additional details. So that is a little bit disappointing. This here is my custom attempt to make this Batman with all the overlays and pieces. This was supposed to be a prototype, so this was the first version I ever made, and I think I got close enough with the head sculpt being 3D printed, and I painted the face myself, but I didn't paint in the eyes because I was supposed to complete it later on. It was a prototype and I never got to it, but yeah, if I had continued with it, I would have gotten, I think, closer to this version with just the overlays being a little bit more tucked in and shapen well. But I never got to it. But I think ultimately that Batman is not that bad. But again, the fabric should be a lot closer to this dark. Yeah, this is way too light. So yeah, these are all the Batman I have in my collection from this movie. So last but not least, we're looking at the Flash action figure. This was my most anticipated figure from this 3-pack. Reason being, I didn't have a Flash from Mezco yet, and I thought this was going to change the whole way my setup was, I guess, on my shelf, and this is not the Flash for it. I guess the head sculpt isn't that bad, but the body just looks a little bit weird and awkward. It's got like this huge barrel chest with very tiny limbs. So it does look a little bit weird. On the left here, we've got the Mattel Multiverse Justice League Flash, which I think proportion-wise looks slightly better than the Mezco one, which is very weird to say. The colors do look a lot better on the Mezco Flash, and the textures also are done very well. I unfortunately do not have the Mafex one. I think that's probably the best one, but I did get the SH Figure Arts one on sale. I think I got it for around 50 Australian dollars, which is very cheap. It was on sale, I think on Zing, which was a really good price and a really good deal. So I did end up getting him, and I think this is probably still going to be the Flash on my shelf. Simply because it's more articulated, it looks more proportionate, and it would fit in better with my action figures at the moment. The shelf that I currently have is mostly Mezco's, with the exception of Cyborg, because Mafex has the only Cyborg that I would want to get anyway. So yeah, ultimately Flash was a letdown, I think, and I'll quickly give you my thoughts at the end now on what I think of the rest of the figures. Alright, last thing before we move on, it's a shameless plug. This action figure here is a 3D printed action figure that I make, and I basically do 3D printable action figures that you can get on my Patreon, so please check that out. I've linked it in my description and the top comment, pinned comment as well, so if you're interested in, if you have a 3D printer and you're interested in making your own figures, do check it out. These are pretty cool, and I don't know, if you like them and if you're into 3D printing, this could open up a whole new world where you're making your own action figures rather than having to buy them. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, check it out. But yeah, this is something that I built on my own, so I'm super proud of it. If you want to check it out and help me on Patreon, please do so as well. I'll put all the links in the description below. So overall, in conclusion, I think that these are okay action figures if you do not consider the price and the tremendous wait time we had to endure for these to come out. If you look at just the figures, they are okay. Like in terms of just looking the part, they look all right. But considering the price and the three to 4 years that we had to wait for these to actually come out is, I think, not worth it. The Superman is okay in terms of all the parts and bits here, but most of it is reused and just a new head sculpt and a new lick of paint. So possibly not worth it. I think my belt is kind of damaged as well, where that should be completely filled in. There's kind of a spotty thing going on there. But other than that, it's the same figure. We've seen it before, just in black, and I've done a couple of my own versions, so I wouldn't consider this to be absolutely worth it. The Batman is probably the biggest draw for most people because this is going off of the version of Batman that we never got from Mezco, which is the, I guess, regular suit version of Batman. We did get the tactical suit version from the movie, which is, I guess, more armored up, and not many people like that version. But the 3-year wait for this and the complete bait and switch on the promo images that were shown, I think possibly not a good idea. It's not it, man. Like, it's not 100% there. It does look all right, and if it's darker it might look a little bit better, but it feels all right as well in terms of just the fabric and the overlays. They don't feel like they're gonna tear or rip apart or anything like that, but just the proportions a little bit iffy for me, and I've kind of phased out of Mezco a little bit as well. I've not been collecting as many Mezcos because of their QC issues and also their bait and switch and the long wait times. So I've kind of, maybe that's impacting my review a little bit, but I think that the Batman should have been the absolute best figure because they've done so well with the BVS version, and this would have been the set to get, basically, if you want to get that definitive Batman, but they didn't do it. This Batman is a little bit lackluster, and the details are all there. Honestly, the details are absolutely all there, but it's just the color and just, yeah, it's just not appealing for some reason for me. So the 3-year wait probably wasn't worth it. Flash would have been the other draw because we never got Flash in Mezco form before, but it's, again, they did show the promos to have the actual joints, so they didn't do a bait and switch here. But the way this figure is made, the body just looks bulky and the limbs look really tiny. So that kind of puts me off a little bit. The head on all 3 figures are a little bit big. Nothing you can't fix with third-party heads. But then again, you have to buy third-party heads to make action figures that you paid hundreds of dollars for to look better. So possibly not the best idea. It's just a whole bunch of spending. Yeah, the articulation on this guy, just, I don't know. It allows you good motion and range of motion, but just messing up with the aesthetics is very, very weird. I'm not gonna complain about it too much because I've got the SH Figure Arts figure actually standing in for this guy. But again, I was hoping that this guy would be the definitive version of Flash from Mezco. But by the look of things, I might not even get him onto the shelf because the Flash that I have now looks a lot better. So ultimately, was this 3-pack really worth it? Batman needs a whole bunch of paint and also possibly a change in head sculpt and also the emblem to look reasonable. Flash is possibly not it, and Superman is a whole bunch of reuse with just a new head, and the head is too orange anyway. So I really don't know if it's worth the money and the time we spent waiting for these figures, but ultimately I am happy that I have these. It's nothing that stands out too much, but just having these figures is a good thing. If you can afford it in this economic situation that we're all in, if you can afford it, definitely go for it. Otherwise, I'm not gonna say that you're missing out on too much. You've got other versions of these characters that are probably better versions of these. So the Mafex Flash is probably better than this Flash. The Mafex Justice League Snyder Cut Superman was definitely better than this one, and the Justice League Batman Snyder Cut that's coming out soon from Mafex version 2.0, that's probably better than this Batman. So maybe just spend your money there. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much for sticking to the end. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope you got something useful out of this review. If you want to see any of my other videos, you can check them out on my channel. Please subscribe if you want to see more. If you like this video and if it was helpful at all, please leave a like. And if you want to let me know about anything, or if you want to request any other videos that I do, such as comparisons for any of these figures, please let me know and leave them down in the comment section below. If you want to help the channel out in any other way, you can also subscribe to my Patreon. On my Patreon, as a subscriber, you'll get access to STL files for downloadable and printable action figures every single month. You'll get a 5-point action figure similar to DC Superpowers, and also a Mafex style action figure which is 6 inches and scales well with Mafex Mezco SH Figure Arts. If you want that kind of figure, then please check out my Patreon. And speaking of Patreon, I wanted to do a huge shout out and thank you for my biggest supporter, Chris Sudak. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon and for helping me bounce off ideas and giving me feedback for all these months. Thank you so much, man. I also wanted to thank my other Patreons, Daniel Lopez, Thomas Simmons, Jonathan Zaragoza, and Alex Barger. Thank you so much for your support. Amazing, awesome figures coming your way. And next month, I'm thinking for December to do a big fig as well. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you for watching this video.